Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Gabby, as you can see, and I just wanted to make a video because for a while I've been thinking about writing out my testimony and sharing it again. I've shared it many times, but I think that it's time to say it on camera and hear it out of my mouth because it's a little more personal that way, even though I don't get to tell everybody exactly face-to-face what's going on or what I've gone through to get here. It's a lot more personal to just hear it come out of my mouth and to see the emotion on my face as I share it, and so I just want to go ahead and do that. And I've prayed over this for a while. I don't know, many of you might not know my testimony, but if you did, sometimes it can offend some people, namely family. I love them, but you know, it's kind of putting things that have gone on in their lives a little out there, but it's part of how God made me to be who I am, so I just want to go ahead and show that, or share that. So first, I just want to say that my parents had a lot of trouble getting pregnant. My mother had a disease, which I'm not exactly sure what it's called. I've done some research into it, and you know, it's something that I may possibly suffer from. I'm not sure quite yet, but I just want to, you know, say that to begin with, I have been told that I was, you know, a miracle child. My siblings before I were miscarried, so that caused my mother and father a lot of pain, and when they got pregnant with me, they weren't quite sure that they were going to have me, so my mom had to take a lot of antibiotics, a lot of shots and different things to have me, but comes to the time where I'm born, and as far as I know, and as far as I've been told, everything went perfect. I was a healthy baby, happy baby, brought a lot of joy to my family, a lot of joy to my parents, which is already, to begin with, in my opinion, you know, very powerful God-related birth story and all that. So, you know, to hear all of that really just brought so much joy to my heart, and I also just believe that my name is very signifying of who I am and what I was to become. My parents gave me the name Gabrielle, which, as you may know, means God is my strength, and that's truly the entire point of my life, I believe, at this point. God continues to put me through testimony, or continues to build on my testimony, and continues to just put me through trials and tribulations where I have to just prove once and over again that He is my strength. And at this point, I'm very just honored to be able to say that, because some of the things that I've been through have caused that. So, you know, my parents had me, everything seemed to be going well. They had my brother. When I was very young, I remember that my mother was into alcohol quite a bit. My mother would drink excessively. It was an addiction for her. I found out recently, here in the past few years, that my mother was using pills, and I've been told she was using meth. I've asked her, but she said she hasn't. As to what I truly believe about that, I mean, we could talk about it individually, but that's just, you know, I've been told that by many people. So I was in a dangerous situation. There was plenty of times where my mom would become so drunk that she would burn paper plates, she would try to drown herself in the pool, she would sleep outside with the dogs, she would drink so much to where she'd pass out on the floor and lay on top of my brother and I, which is scary but when you hear it, but, you know, as a child, I didn't know any better. That was just my life. So it's a testament that I had survived through all of that. My little brother would drink alcohol, because my mother would have Kool-Aid. He would drink that alcohol. I don't believe that I ever did. And my father worked shift work, so he wasn't always there, but he did his best to protect us during that time. And it was just, it's amazing to me thinking back to those days that we're actually alive today because of the things that occurred. I remember a time where my mother got so drunk she couldn't keep her head up, and she was swimming in the pool that we had in the backyard, and she fell face first, and I knew how to swim just because we had a pool, and my father and my mom have taught me how to swim. So I went in the backyard and I swam until I could prop my mother's head up on a ladder to where she could breathe. And I don't remember how we got her out of the pool. I think my brother might have called my dad or something, but my mom did get out of the pool. She's alive today. and my father's alive today. But, growing up, there's so many stories, so many things that I can go into to tell you how much of an amazing point it is that God has me here today. But I'll just leave it at that it was a dangerous situation as a child. My dad wasn't always there to protect us. I basically raised my little brother when my mom was drunk, and cooked for him, took care of him. In some ways he's almost like my child, and I feel like we kind of have a little bit of that relationship, not that I truly wanted to, but it was just how the chips fell. And I love my brother, and I thank God that I have a little brother, that I had somebody who could be there with me and that I actually could lean on even if I did have to take care of him. And then as a teenager, I started to learn a little bit more. Through my childhood, I still had those issues. My mother and father got divorced when I was 8 years old, which we stayed with my mom for some time, as I don't know if you've been through CPS, whether as a parent or as a child, but they don't want to separate the family as much as you might think they do. They wanted us to be with our mother, but with my mom being on drugs and being on pills and being on alcohol, and it wasn't a safe situation for us. And finally, my dad had the proof that he needed in order to keep us from our mother. And shortly thereafter, we found out her live-in boyfriend at the time, he killed himself with a plastic bag over his head, which, honestly, I can't remember if we had seen or if we had heard, but I do remember that it occurred. And then that kind of went down there with my mom, and we haven't spent longer than a few hours with my mother ever since those days. So I moved in with my dad. I love my dad. My dad's a good father. But he does have his problems too. My dad has anger issues. We get in fist fights. When I was a child and a young teenager, or young adult as well, he didn't drink, but he just had a lot of anger issues and a lot of addictive behaviors. He would have people come in who were a part of gangs, who were on drugs, who were strippers, who were different things, and this was all while I was under the age of 18, and they were women. So my woman figure whenever I was that age was someone who was doing drugs, who was selling their body for prostitution and different things like that, even though I've never heard them admit it. I know this because of the conversations that I've had with, them and my father, and just little bits and pieces that I picked up. So that wasn't a very positive thing for me as a young woman, to know that the only male attention that I could get at the time was to basically sell myself or to do drugs for something. So growing up, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of boyfriends, and I did a lot of things that I regret doing, and a lot of things occurred during that time that I didn't really want to occur, and there was a couple things that happened as a teenager in my regard, under my control, that could have been entirely detrimental and changed my life forever, but thankfully they didn't, because God was in control. And when I was about 16 years old, this is when the Lord got a hold of me. I was in a class, my world history class, with Mr. Lacone, who was my teacher at the time, and he was a Christian, so we would be put in group work, and I got in a group with a couple girls. I'm not going to mention their names, because they know who they are, and, I'm sure that they'd be fine if I said it, but I just won't. And they brought me to their church, and they loved on me, and they treated me as a sister in Christ should treat someone, and at the time, and even now, they're beautiful, loving individuals, every single one of them still in love with the Lord, and I thank them for so much for bringing me to where I am, because ultimately, I believe that the Lord Jesus saved me, but without those women that he was using as his vessel, I don't think that I would be a Christian today. So I would just like to say thank you for those girls, and I'd like to say thank you, hindsight, to everyone that prayed for me during that time, but since then, God's done such amazing things in my life. I got baptized from that point. I got out of that household that I was in. I have a good relationship with my father and my mother. Everyone's alive, everyone's healthy. My brother and I are still close. I think there's so many things that I could tell you that God's done in my life, but I think most importantly what it is to know both of my parents, when I was growing up, weren't Christians. My father, more so out of the two, I believe my father is or was. He just kind of has a unbiblical sense of it, maybe a lukewarm Christian, if you will. My mother was a Christian growing up, I believe. I don't know if Christ truly had her heart, but she was a Christian, and now she's a Muslim. She lives with a Muslim man, and I'm not sure how she handles that. I know I tried to share God's love with her sometimes, but it's hard because we haven't had a great relationship, and that's probably my biggest struggle right now, is with my mom. But God has brought me out of the abusive relationships that I've had with men. I'm married now to Max. I love my husband. He's an amazing person, amazing man of God. He's truly changed my life, through Jesus, of course. And, I recently got pregnant. I lost the baby, learned a little bit about myself. I found out that I might not be able to have children. I've had a lot of trials and tribulations that have gone on, but the beauty of it for me is whether I'm doing everything that I can do in the world and having all of my worldly desires met, or whether I'm, having a hard time or having to save my mother from a pool, Jesus is there and Jesus keeps me safe. And I feel like this could be so much more detailed, that I could have so much more planned out that I could say in this video, but I don't think that I need to say everything that I want to say at this time, because God will fill in the gaps. And what I mean by that is, there might be some things that you wonder or I wonder that God hasn't yet answered, and since this is a video, I just don't want to be as detailed, just because I don't want to offend anybody by saying anything negative about them, but I'm just grateful for everything that I've been through and everyone that's been there for me. I could mention every single person, but I am not going to, just because God deserves the glory. God deserves the glory for bringing me to where I am today. God deserves the glory for who I'm going to be and who He's molding me in to be, and I just thank Jesus so much that He's given me the testimony that He has. And if there's any questions about what I've been through, or any prayers that anyone has, because they might have had something in common, or might have had thoughts like I might have had, then I want to know, because even if I can't relate, I want to be able to pray and be there for somebody who might be in pain. And I just thank everybody that might have watched this and might have gotten anything out of this. And if there's anything that you want me to delve in on, specifically if you want to know, well, what occurred in your childhood or what's occurring now, I'd love to, but I just kind of wanted to give a point-blank testimony and just thank the Lord for everything He's brought me through. And again, I just appreciate anybody that might have watched this, and I hope you're having a great